Wow, look at that. We are live, Coffee with Rich, a very special event we have today. This is July the 14th, 2021, and we are joined by Manhar Parshotam, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, sir. Uh,
Yeah.
Manhar, Manhar is the director and founder of Protection Services. I believe I'm saying that correctly. And he is there in South Africa right now with everything that's going on. I think we need to be paying attention to it. And sadly, here, the American media is not following it as closely as they should be. Yes, you can find some things on CNN and Fox News, but it does not have the coverage it probably should. And I know that this live stream comes at a difficult time because we're in the middle of the day. So I'm not sure how many people would jump on live, but people will definitely check the replays of this show. And Manhar, I know that you're incredibly busy, so I definitely want to be respectful of the amount of time that I have with you today. How is it going over there, sir?
Well, Rich, today it's sort of calmed down a bit. And there's sort of a lull in the air, but you can still smell the tear gas and you can still smell the smoke in the air everywhere you go. Roads are blocked by community members. You can't get bread and milk. It's difficult. You got to go to shops and stand in long queues, and it's like a movie. It's initially it was like watching World War Z, and then it became watching something like Deep Impact, or you just can't get your basic needs satisfied.
Yeah, let me read Manhar Parshotam's brief bio here, and then I've got a longer bio in today's show notes. The founder is Manhar Parshotam, a global leader in the security and close protection industry. Following a 17 career in security and protection, Manhar is known as an expert in risk assessment and profiling. He has completed many overt and covert assignments locally and internationally within the industry and has gained a vast amount of knowledge and experience. Today, he undertakes an operational commander role on the team, leading positions, planning, and undertaking operations. His oversight of Dragon Protection Services has made the company grow from strength to strength, training and providing new protection affairs with experience, risk advisory services to many local and international companies and individuals. And once again, sir, welcome to the show. And you were planning on coming on the show here in a couple of weeks, but I think we decided to, with the things going on in your country, we probably need to do it a bit sooner.
Yeah, I was quite excited for the August one, but this one was definitely a need. I needed to get our voice out there as well, Rich. So thank you very much for your show. Thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity, and thank you to your listeners and your viewers and everybody that follows and has a look at it. As you know, I'm from South Africa, which is quite volatile at the moment. I believe it's been on CNN and BBC. I haven't watched a television in the last 3-4 days, kind of thing. But I see the world is getting to know of the plight that we are encountering.
Yeah, they are. And just so the viewers know, Manhar is actually sitting at a roadblock right now. Where are you at? What county or city are you in?
So I'm in Durban, and which is in KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. And Durban is the land of legends, as we call it. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful little city which very few foreigners know about. But it's a good beach city. We have a port. We have a lot of game reserves and beautiful weather. There's never a winter in Durban. But today seems to be quite chilly, so we're all geared up and all ready for the long night ahead of the cold. There's a big joke about Durban nights that when the temperature goes below 22 degrees Celsius.
I think we may be frozen here, which is unfortunately typical for Coffee with Rich. We'll give Manhar a moment here. While I'm giving
thermals and that. Hi, am I there?
Yeah, you were froze for
Yeah,
just a
yeah.
moment.
I'm sorry. So yeah, I'm in Durban, KwaZulu Natal, and I visited the States quite often. As you know, I've shot up there at the 2015 IDPA World Championship. I've traveled there since. But been to your beautiful Disneyland, and New York is my wife's favorite city, and we love Texas, and Florida and that kind of thing. So yeah.
Well, we're happy to have you on the show. Robert Bird says good morning. Greg Gomez says good morning. Rich and Manhar. Greg is coin number 2060 from the great state of Texas, and Shan Hemphill is on. Says happy Wednesday from Shan in Idaho. Excited to hear about this important issue. Yes, it is an important issue, and one of the things that you said to me before during the pre-show was you never knew South Africa had so many guns until what you're seeing right now. And can you take us back? What happened here? How did we get to this terrible moment in your country's history?
As you're aware, we had an ex-president, President Zuma, who's since 2004 being charged for corruption and has never come in front of the judiciary. And he was ousted out, and President Cyril Ramaphosa has taken over. And there's been some politics between them. And in the recent times, we've had the Zondo Commission, which was looking at the massive amounts of corruption within our government. And, President Zuma was arrested last week for contempt of court, would you believe, and not for corruption. And he was sentenced to 15 months in prison, which again was another drama, because he did state that him and his followers are able to cripple the country. And what had happened last week, Thursday night, a message had gone around that they are doing a complete shutdown for Monday. But nobody expected what was coming. You've had massive amounts of people hoarding and looting and damaging infrastructure. Most of our shopping malls have been looted and burnt. Rich, I've sent you some pictures of what's been going around, and communities have been held siege, essentially, in Durban. And this has been going on since Friday evening, and it's just not stopping. It's waves and waves. It goes down in a lull, and suddenly there's a horde of people charging a certain place, penetrating malls, looting everything from all supplies. All food supplies are gone from retail outlets. Recently, or was yesterday, they had looted a company called Massmart, which supplies most of the retailers with food and supplies, and they looted and destroyed the entire distribution warehouse. So there's nothing left, and unfortunately, our police service and our military cannot handle this. And with politics being played out, most of the politicians are either behind ex-President Zuma or President Cyril. We don't know on which side of the fence anybody is. So, you've had no policemen come out sometimes, and there's no help.
Yeah, one of
People
the
are calling for
videos.
help, and there's nothing happening.
Yeah, and a lot of the videos that Manhar has sent me, were those filmed by you and your team?
No, sir. They were shared by the public on our groups, and they were shared online, and that's from different malls and things like that. So
Okay.
yeah.
And I'll be putting a lot of those up on the American Warrior Society's Facebook page, and they're pretty amazing. One of the ones that you sent me, Manhar, was it looked like they had a group of policemen or security officers surrounded up against the wall, and they were unarmed and kind of not good.
Yeah, it's not a pretty picture. It's not a pretty picture. So my company was doing one of the malls in an area called Inanda, which is a predominantly, and I don't like to use the term black, but a predominantly black township. And it was a beautiful mall. It had the good retailers in there, good stores and things like that. And we fought from Saturday afternoon and finally lost the mall on the Sunday afternoon at about 4 o'clock. And
Wow.
one of the videos I showed you was that of the guy siphoning the petrol from the petrol station, and that's the mall that we were doing. And it's heart sore. It's scary, you know,
Yeah, that
that
I
that
couldn't
this
make out
type
what
of
that.
destruction could happen.
Yeah, I couldn't make out what that video was. It looked like there was a person inside, like a manhole. So that's what they were doing. They were siphoning the gas, huh?
Yes, from the tank.
Wow.
Yeah,
Dangerous.
yeah. The where you filled your petrol or your gas, as you'd say, you have a Bowser that you put into your tank of your car. The Bowser's gone, but there's a hole in the ground, and the guy got in there to get the fuel.
Yeah, the
You know.
videos that you've shared with me, I mean, it does. It looks like World War Z. I mean, it is absolutely unbelievable. And the last I saw this morning here in the States, Manhar, was 72 officially killed. And I'm sure that death toll number will rise considerably as the numbers come in.
Rich, today the politicians are suddenly getting a little bit, how can I say, they're voicing their concerns, a bit too late, 4 days later. I remember one of the American Warrior Society guys commented on what can be done. And I had asked, please, let the world know that, let the American government as well know that, you know, I can't tell you, this is not life. This is not the way you live. I mean, South Africans are used to living in fear because of our crime rate and what goes on, but this is not it's not normal. It's not. My children, they sleep at night or hardly sleep at night, and all you hear is gunfire, and you hear explosions, and it's almost as though it's civil war, but we know it's not, but it seems that way.
Well, I think with a lot of Americans don't understand that whether it's Zuma or your current president, Cyril Ramaphosa, I believe I'm saying that correctly, you know,
Yes.
there's a lot of longstanding tribal issues, that are going on behind the scenes that we don't fully understand. Like Zuma is from one tribe, and I don't know if Cyril's from another one, but I think a lot of this could potentially lead to some sort of a very ugly civil war if those tribal disagreements are allowed to fester. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, you are not wrong, Rich. The Going back to the history and to get into a bit of details, ex-president Zuma is a Zulu. The famous Zulu warriors that we've had, and we've always, sort of, as Durban people, we love them because they come from Durban, KwaZulu Natal. King Shaka, King Dingaan, who took on the British when they were here. And the brilliance in ex-president Zuma and what he's done. The corruption was not just about looting money. It was about placing people in key positions to completely decimate a department. I mean, we have policemen here who don't even have ammunition. They don't have fuel or gas for their cars. They don't have equipment. The civilian population has more or can provide more than what governmental at this very moment in time.
Yeah, and
Sorry.
yeah, we broke up for
Yeah.
a second, but that's exactly what we've got. Probably a dozen or so American Warrior Society members in South Africa. Of course, Manhar, you're one of them, and several that I stay in relatively constant contact with. And one of them said that he released a press release because he owns a firearms training company. I don't know if you know Jonathan Deal. And
Yes.
Yeah, and he said that the police are calling him asking for ammunition. I'm like, no, I got none to spare.
Yeah,
But to your point
yeah.
about those aren't just rumors, man. That's an absolute fact. They don't have gasoline to drive to the situation. They don't have ammunition to deal with the situation, and then it leaves you and your security company alone to deal with thousands, if not tens of thousands of people trying to break into that mall. And like you said, I'm sure your company fought valiantly, but ultimately were overwhelmed on Sunday, right?
That's right. My armed. They weren't armed. They did their best, and it, it took the civilian population to stand up before people started noticing. And right now our so-called I'd say government employees or politicians are making it a racial issue, but it's not. I mean, if I show you the roadblock that I'm at, it's manned by civilian population, white, black, Indian, mixed. Everybody happy, everybody laughing and jovial. We've been having some fun nights and some fun days amidst all of this, trying to keep everybody's morale up. We've caught some looters, and then we've looted the looters so that we could have some coke or whatever, and then sent them on the way without the goods that they took.
That's unbelievable. Now, are you armed at the moment?
Yes, I am, Rich. I have a AR down there.
Okay.
I have a 9mm on my hip, and I'm carrying about 80 or 90 rounds of ammunition.
Good.
And at the roadblock that I'm at currently, there's 4 other armed men that work, and the unarmed guys man the actual roadblock, and we provide sort of like a covering position.
Now, the men manning the roadblock, are they just civilians, or are they members of your security team? Who are they?
No, everybody in every area that in Durban. What had happened is on Friday when everything started, and on Saturday when it wasn't ending, people started making calls out. So our neighborhood watches and our community policing forums and normal members or leaders within the public, we asked, and we had a meeting, and within an hour, I think every community in Durban had mobilized people to man their streets. So we started on a street level, and then we went to an area level. And then we started doing things like preparing schools in the area, because we are not a huge population. We, in a sense of the people trying to protect is not a lot. So we prepared schools in the area. We spoke to doctors and said, what medication would we need? What would we need? The Muslim community is coming forward right now, and there's free bread being delivered to community centers. The Jewish community is providing milk. I don't even want to make it a thing about different communities, but everybody's banded together. Whatever they could supply is coming in. People that own factories that make the small bakery on the corner of the road. The guy phones and says, "Can I open Monday morning? You'll stand outside, and I will make free coffee and I'll bake bread or whatever for the community." So it's really been a fantastic, and that's the positive thing that came out of this, is that a community that everybody says in South Africa racism exists. Racism doesn't exist. Politicians exist.
Yeah. Here. And a moment ago, Manhar, you said that that the politicians were trying to make it a race issue. Can you unpack that a little bit?
Well, when the protest started on Friday, it was a free Zuma campaign, and the moment the community stood up, and being in Durban, a majority of the population are Indian, so the moment everybody stood up and suddenly we were fighting back, you have politicians standing up and saying, "Oh, you're being racist. You're not allowing people through your roadblocks. You know." Um, but all the community was doing was stopping people and saying, "Do you live in this area? If you don't live here, we have a mandatory curfew after 9 o'clock. Can you please go home?" You
Right.
know, you've been looting at Macro. We know that all the goods are from Macro, or from Mass Mart, and which is like a Walmart here. Pack it, leave it, you go home.
Yeah, and one of the videos you shared with me, I don't know who this gentleman is, but he's talking about redistribution and some other stuff. What can you explain that?
I don't know which video you're talking about, Rich.
Yeah, there's a
I'm sorry.
gentleman.
There's just been so much.
Yeah, he's smartly dressed in a suit, and he's saying we have three basic demands. It's like redistribution of the wealth. We're gonna run the country our way, and I don't know.
Okay. So that is Duduzane Zuma, which is ex-President Zuma's son. And ex-President Zuma's kids have been instrumental in this protest. They've been publicly on public forums like Twitter and Facebook, pushing for the destruction of what's happening.
Okay,
I
got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the video that I wanted you to see, because it's a public video. Have a look. And I want the American people to know that this is what we are dealing with. A friend of mine in America had contacted me on Monday and said, and I found I was really disappointed. I actually cried, because he said, you could get asylum or you could be a refugee. And it really struck me, Rich, that I must leave the country I was born in. I love America. I'd live there any day, but why leave the country I was born in? My kids were born here. I'm a South African like everybody else. My skin color doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter what clothes I wear or whatever I do. If I contribute to society in terms of taxation, or even if I contribute in terms of cleaning the street, I'm contributing to society. Why should I be prejudiced, or why should I be marginalized, or not get a job because of my skin color, or not get any work from the government because of my skin color? We fought that in the 80s and the 90s. I was still a young boy, and I remember we were not allowed to go into certain places because of our color, and it's coming back again.
Yeah, I've heard that about South Africa, that that they have taken affirmative action as it is here in the United States and used it there. But you have a minority white population, you have a minority Indian population, and I think that you guys are finding it hard to compete now because of the affirmative action that they put in place. Have I been misinformed?
Look, it's difficult to do business in South Africa. The red tape, corruption, and on top of it, we have BEE, which is affirmative action. I don't see any problem with that, because yes, majority of the population needs to be employed and needs to be but give everybody an opportunity. With ex-President Zuma and a lot of ministers within our cabinet, the people that are getting the work are their families.
Yeah.
If you had to Google the Zondo Commission, everybody there is family. They're all connected in some way.
And what's amazing about sub-Saharan Africa, we see this play out. We saw it play out in Zimbabwe, to name just, one of your neighboring countries to the north. And it's like, it never ends well when they do that.
It never ends well. And I think I had a lot of hope for South Africa, Rich. I had a lot of hope. I grew up in the 80s, which was the height of the fall of apartheid. And, 1994, we had the democratic elections, and, we had the two sides that South Africa would never prosper. And a lot of people said, well, South Africa will prosper, And the beauty part is the early parts of 2000s, South Africa was really doing well. We're a mineral-rich country. We're a central port between the West and the East. We're a trade hub. And we were doing so well. Then we had the 2010 World Cup. And in 2005, we had the first signs of corruption between Mr. Shabir Sheikh and President Zuma. And then we had the AIDS pandemic with our ex-president Thabo Mbeki. And, it's not ending. And every time there seems to be an issue with the country, the government brings up racism. I understand racism exists. It exists all over the world, Rich.
That's right.
It's everywhere. It's not just South Africa. It's not a black and white thing. Of recent, we've had, the Muslims taking a lot of flack because of terrorism. And because of that, there was racism against the Sikh population because they wore the turban.
Right.
And people just were not informed. But if I show you this roadblock, it's shocking. There's a mixture of people. There's a mixture of cultures. Laughing, joking, making fun of everybody. And if I show you what's happening at the shop, the little shop down the road, there's a queue of people trying to buy milk and bread. Mm. In the past, in the early 2000s, we would walk the streets without any problems. I'd walk my dog here.
Yeah, and that's Zuma. I believe Zuma was the president, the ex-president that all this kind of started because of. Wasn't he in prison with Nelson Mandela for like 8 or 9 years or something like that?
That is correct. He was in prison for 10 years with President Zuma. Yeah, he was. There are rumors, and I don't know how true this is, but there are rumors that he was a double agent, and there's a lot of theories behind him. I sort of look at him and I think, what an intelligent man for a guy that didn't have an education. He's managed to cripple a country in not even 10 years.
Yeah, and if you're just joining us now, thank you to the 20 folks that are watching us live. I am joined by Manhar, and he is the director and founder of Dragon Protection Services in South Africa, one of the leading companies there. And we just lost him. Let me see if I can get him back on the show. I know that he was sitting at a roadblock and that we could unfortunately lose him at any time, but let me see if I can get him back on the show. Let's see.
Apologize. Can you see me?
I was worried when you left us. I'm like, uh-oh.
No. Everything is quiet for now. It's flared up a bit in the central town.
But is this spreading outside that province? Is it spreading in Joburg or anything like that?
Yeah, Johannesburg saw a bit of it on Monday, but it was quelled very quickly. Here, it doesn't seem to be ending.
But where you're at currently, where you're at though, that is the homeland of Zuma, correct?
That's the homeland of Zuma, yes.
Yeah, okay. Lots of folks are joining us. Shan says, I find it interesting how communities come together in times of emergency. I suspect there are many scenarios that could have this applied to the United States. I wonder what operational advice Manhar might have for us here in the States. What are your recommendations, if anything?
Like I said, Rich, we mobilized very quickly within a day. We got all the youngsters involved. Every single man got involved. first. And we went street by street. So if I lived in a certain street, it was my job to mobilize the men on that street. And we secured that street, and then we moved on to the next street, and that sort of thing. So until we got it, an entire area. And then we started mobilizing the women of the households to provide food for us. And you know, we got everybody has little talents, so somebody did something. It just didn't end there. Then we looked at you know, we got the security companies within the area banded together, and they provided the community with the support. So if we needed the support, the security companies with the high-speed cars and the big guns and the whatever we needed would come out to the community at that particular point and assist us.
Now, how about lethal force, yeah, Manhar? Or have you seen instances of lethal force having to be employed in order to maintain the safety of your streets and communities?
Rich, I've sent you, I think there's about 2 or 3 videos there. One that I'd sent you was the last one, was happening as we speak, but that was in a different area of Durban, but you know, not sure where we at. And you can hear gunfire, you can hear you know, shots being going out there. And there has been lethal force. It has been a bit violent. We last night at one of the roadblocks that not this one but another one that I was at, you know, they had stopped a car and pulled out 3 firearms, and these guys were part of the looting fraternity. They looted a whole lot of items from a shop or whatever, and they had 3 firearms on them.
Wow.
You know, and now the police, we are backing up the police, and the police are working with the community now, because you know, I feel bad for the policemen on the road, because they really are trying. They try their best with the cars with no fuel. They try, you know, they get to you to help you, and but there's just not that many of them.
Alan asks a question, Manhar. He says, with the restrictions on firearms there, do you have an avenue to use them for protection?
There is an avenue to use them for protection. You are allowed to purchase a firearm for protection. However, it's quite a lengthy and detailed process. I wouldn't want to get into the process with the viewers, Rich, because I don't know the exact details of everything. But you know, you need to get what we call a competency, which is you need to go for basic training and that competency says that you are competent to handle a particular type of firearm. Thereafter, you go to the police station and they do a check on your fingerprints to find out if you've had any prior records or involved in any criminal activities. They want to know that you have the necessary resources. And then you can go purchase a firearm and things like that. So yeah, it's quite a detailed and lengthy process.
Yeah, and on July the 26th, we're going to have Neil Taylor, who's a South African attorney, and he's going to tell us. I don't know if you know Neil, but
yes,
yeah, Neil's going to come on again. We've had him on a couple times, and he's going to tell us what his family has been through. And it's you know, our prayers go out to you, man. And I think that, you know, I don't want to see you or Neil or Jonathan or Jaco or any of our other members in South Africa have to flee that country. But at the same time, at what point does it become untenable for you and your family? You know?
Rich, already my family and I have a go bag ready. Mm-hmm. We have enough diesel in our car to leave. And mentally, I think we don't really want to do it, but we are prepared to get in the car and just get out of here. Yeah. Mentally, you know.
Where would you go?
I've worked hard. I need to go somewhere safe. Just it doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter, you know, what needs to be done. I just need to go somewhere safe. I need to go. You know, my wife and I, we travel to America every 2 years. And in that 2 weeks or 3 weeks that we are there, it's such a pleasure for me not to carry a firearm, Rich. Uh, it's such a pleasure to walk into an airport and leave your bag on the side and not even look at it twice. You can't do that here in South Africa, and the mental state that South Africans are in is not a healthy state.
No, I can't imagine it. And
Yeah.
I almost had my wife talked into a visit to South Africa until this happened. I was like,
No,
you know,
look, this in the history of South Africa, this has happened in the past. In 1949, the Zulus I don't know we call it, 1949 riots. They were not happy with Indians, and they had done a lot of bad things to us. And again in the 1980s, this happened, and it's happening now. So every couple of years somebody flicks a switch, and it becomes an issue.
but I think this is probably the worst. That's certainly in this generation. Wouldn't you guess?
In this generation, yes. I think 1949 was really bad. 1949, the population was quite young in South Africa. At that time, we were indentured slaves, or had come in on over. The British had brought us in and things like that. So, they were unhappy with us because we were working, and they were not allowed to work or something like that. So I don't know the details of that history, but in the 80s, it lasted 5 days, and again, only when the community stands up does it stop.
Yeah. Did you see, Manhar? What about the video that's going around? It's got millions of views. It appears to be a group of white South Africans firing into a crowd on a 4-lane interstate. What's going on in that?
Yes.
Do you know the context?
I don't know the guys, but I know a guy lives in that area, and that's yeah. So we out of here in Durban, we out of what we call baton rounds, which is a rubber round for shotguns.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to get some today and I couldn't, but yeah, we out of it. If anybody has, please send us a care package. I mean that as a joke, but yeah. Yeah, so that is in a place called Amanzimtoti, which is south of Durban. Also, a very beautiful place, beach area. Gorgeous little town in Durban, and yeah. So where I'm at is also very nice.
Oh, I'm sure South Africa is a beautiful country from everything I've seen, but you guys have had your problems. And what right now? I mean, what do you need more of, Manhar? Not that we could, I'd love to organize a care package, but every time I've sent something to South Africa, it takes weeks if it ever gets there.
Yes. Again, corruption. Our post office barely works. And that's because of corruption, and so don't let that happen in America, please. Don't let it happen. Don't let corrupt politicians tell you what to do. But yeah, what you can do, Rich, I would really appreciate if the world gets to know. I mean, now I thank you for the opportunity again, because the world gets to see us. But we need pressure from other governments to assist us, because the last 4 days was tough. But what's to come is going to be more difficult. We have fuel shortages now coming up. With the distribution centers gone, how are we going to get food? Maybe the shops would run out of food. Who's going to deliver bread and milk? Our fuel refinery called Sapref sent out a notice of force majeure, where they just shut down all operations. So
Wow.
there's no refining of fuel. So this is not just about looting, it's about an absolute destruction of our infrastructure.
Now, your company, Manhar, has the phone been ringing off the hook? I would imagine with people wanting to contract you guys.
Rich, it's really been tough, eh? It's been tough, to tell people no, and to hear people cry on the phone that, please save my business, or please, I need 4 or 5 armed guys, or I need this and I need that. That's been happening for the last 3 days. My company does a lot of hospitals in the Durban area, and 2 of them are high risk because the riots have been on the doorstep. However, they haven't touched the hospitals. They haven't damaged the hospitals. Which would tell you how organized this kind of looting is, or how professional it is, if I may use that term loosely. The hospitals are being left alone.
Thank God. For the moment,
Yeah,
they're being left alone.
For the moment, yes. Yeah. And it's really been a tough time for us. You have a hospital. I had a doctor that I had to pick up from home, from a house on Monday night, to deliver a baby at 2 o'clock in the morning, and then go pick her up again and take her home, because she couldn't get anywhere.
How do you manage getting through the roadblocks, Manhar?
Most of the guys in the roadblocks are civilians. So obviously, if you speak properly and they understand you, and you can pick out when somebody's not from your area, and when somebody is just driving through. The roadblocks are not manned by any policeman or any person of authority, and most of the roadblocks you can drive through, but some roadblocks are completely barricaded. They've used cement blocks or bricks and drums and that kind of thing to completely barricade the road, so you cannot get in there. And then they leave one road open, which they can man, so that there's only one entrance or exit into that particular area.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you're just joining us this morning, you're like, what is going on? I'm speaking with Manhar, who's a security professional and founder of Dragon Protection Services in South Africa. And we're getting he's telling us what's going on right now in the moment with some of the worst riots in at least the last 100 years in South Africa. And I don't know, is there any end in sight to this? What's it going to take to bring this to a close?
Sure. There's been a call for the military to be deployed, which took about 4 days for the government to realize that, yeah, okay, we're deploying the military. And apparently they're here in Durban, but I haven't seen them. So I don't know. They call it a company has been deployed, and to me, a company is what, 100 men?
Yeah.
How do you deploy 100 men against a population of what? Let's just call it 80,000 people, and I don't know if that's correct.
Yeah.
We were expecting to hear helicopters and everybody on our little groups, WhatsApp groups, is when the military is coming, and I think any country would look at that and say, hey, the army is coming to save us. But it's a big disappointment when you hear they're here, but you don't see them. You don't. I haven't seen them. Maybe they have such good camouflage that we don't know where they are.
Yeah, I saw some video and it was like 2 guys patrolling down a street, but everybody's doing what they want and walking by them. But Shan asked a question, Manhar. He says, how does Manhar's team protect businesses? As a business owner, I'm curious how he provides protection and how much force his team uses to protect themselves and their customers.
Okay, based on our climate, Rich, security guards are here in South Africa. I won't say it's a good business. It's a 1 second. I have a guy here.
Sure.
Hello,
Say hi.
Hello. Could you put your hazards on? It just helps the people
There we go.
see that it's a roadblock.
There we
They're
go.
getting a bit strict now.
There we go.
Thanks.
Thank you. Sorry about that. But yeah,
No.
so So we use security guards to provide access control and crowd control. And there are a lot of specialized security guards here. They carry cash and high valued items. My company provides a bit of escorting services. So we escort high valued items from the port of Durban to Johannesburg or to Cape Town, Port Elizabeth, and that sort of thing. And we use a lot of physical barriers, fencing, gates, boom gates. I think security around the world has the same basics, and if you get the basics right, then it's a little easier. However, what we found or what I'm finding in South Africa regards to security is that you have the education is not getting better. Over the years, you find that the education of our people it's failing them. So you have a guy that may be good at security, but he can't write a report, or he can't write a message, or we call it WhatsApp language. So they use the little acronyms for everything, and you get lost. A guy like me, sometimes I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, and you have a business and commerce degree, right? Or that's what you were studying, right?
I have a BCom, yes, a BCom degree. So yeah, which I finished quite late because I had gotten into security quite in my young days. Of course, I'm older now, so but yeah.
So if one of your security officers used deadly force, would they have to call you? What was that? What would that look like?
Okay, so our company has a good infrastructure, and so they report to a central control room every hour or whatever. And if they use deadly force, there is a procedure that we follow. Generally, they'll call it in. And while they do that, they will get their little reports done, statements done. In the interim, a manager and armed response, as we call it, will go out to them to assist. And then the manager would take over, with regards to any investigations, liaising with the South African Police Service, and things like that. I think many months ago, Rich, I'd sent a video about one of my security officers that got shot in his head and he survived.
Holy cow!
Yeah, that was a 38 special, a Rossi 38 special the guys used, and they shot him in his head and he survived. The bullet went through the skin.
Wow.
And yeah,
very lucky.
So it is a lengthy process. It is a difficult process. There's a lot of red tape in South Africa, for any business, not just security.
Shan says, I heard earlier that your company was providing mall security, but unfortunately you lost the mall. What was that decision like to pull your people out and let the mall go?
Rich, that wasn't my decision. That was not my people stayed there and fought till the end. But you have one of the videos. It's not very clear. It's got ShopRite written on it. And you'll just see the hordes of people coming in there, and at that time we had 7 men there, and you couldn't stop that many people.
No, because we're talking about thousands of people coming and 7 people, and unless you're prepared to use lethal force, and even then, it probably wouldn't stop them.
Yeah, and our constitution is such that lethal force is frowned upon with any person of authority, including the police service. So, we have a lot of rights, as they say, as South Africans, which is brilliant. We have a brilliant constitution, but our country is not ready for that constitution.
Yeah, that's I've heard that before about South Africa, and it's kind of hard for an American to understand that, where we live in the rule of law is paramount. Thank God.
Yes, yes.
So, Manhar, what's the rest of your day look like, sir? Are you going to get some sleep? I hope.
Yeah, probably get some, go home about, so it's my turn now at the roadblock, and I'm on duty from about 5 o'clock. So I'm on duty from 5 until whatever time I'm needed, which would probably be about 1, 2 in the morning. And then I go home and try and get some rest, get something to eat, get some grub, as they say. And,
Now, this is just a roadblock in your neighborhood?
yeah, so in the area that I live in called Morningside, um, we have a shopping center behind me. So we've been looking after the shopping center, and we've had running battles here on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and I think yesterday they gave up. And we didn't allow them near. You could not come near the shopping center. So we've had running battles with some protesters. There is another shopping center down the road, about 1 kilometer down the road, and that's completely looted and burnt now. But yeah, I'll turn my camera and you could, I don't know if you could see, but those are the guys manning the roadblock.
Yeah.
Is it clear, Rich?
Yes, very clear. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So you can see the mixture of people, and this is just normal people, just elderly, young, that kind of thing.
Wow, that's
Possibly
amazing.
possibly an unemployed person, a doctor, a lawyer, an employed person, whatever,
Yeah, to keep your community safe. And a moment ago, you said that you had running battles with these people. Is that? Are you mean firing live ammunition, or what exactly is that mean?
No. So how it happened is exactly where this roadblock is. On Sunday morning, the crowd came up to this. Well, the roadblock wasn't here at that time. And what they do is they burn a whole lot of debris and they close off the roads so people can't come here. And then they create the whole lot of hype, and then comes the rush of the amount of people. But thankfully, the police service in this area that I live in banded with us, and we came in as a show of force. And they would throw rocks at us and throw. Thankfully, we didn't have any Molotov cocktails on this side, but and we would just fight with them and just kick them out. And I won't use the terms, but throwing fists and that kind of thing.
But again, that's a fine line, because next thing you know, somebody gets hit by a rock and bullets start flying. So, wow.
Yeah, it's there are other areas where bullets have been flying, like you've seen in Toti. Like you asked about the 4 guys, the one guy loading his shotgun, pump action, and he's firing away. But we have to conserve whatever ammo we have to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
Because yes, we're trying to look after our infrastructure and our community. But at what point do I become a selfish person and say it's time to look after my family?
Right.
And that point would come someday if it continues this way.
Yeah.
If I have to pick up a go bag, pack my family in the car and say we are driving to Johannesburg or Cape Town to try and get a flight out, or try and jump a ship, and even if we stowaways to try and get in there, I would need ammunition to get my family safely to some point.
Yeah, that's Yako is joining us also from South Africa. He's watching this morning. Good morning, Yako. Good afternoon where you are, sir. I hope you're safe. Yeah, and if you need to hold up on the farm here in East Tennessee, you're more than welcome to come on over, Manhar. If you can get out.
I might just take you up on that, Rich.
Come on, I got a guest house. You can have the key to it. But it's amazing, we have had this last year. We had some cities that went up in flames and stuff like that. But thankfully, not where I live here. It's a really safe community. My wife and I have chosen to live on a farm way out in the middle of nowhere for a reason that affords us a lot of protection from the urban centers.
Yeah, different lifestyles, I think. I'm not a physical person, so doing hard labor is not for me, Rich. Uh,
Me either.
as a, yeah, so being on a farm is a bit difficult for me. But yeah, my cousin lives in Jacksonville, Florida, and they just bought a farm.
Oh, really?
Um, Yeah, and he was asking me on Monday, like, have you booked your flight? Because I can get a bed and I can hold you up for a couple of months, you know.
Yeah, but what would that be for your company? If you had to flee, that would be bad, I would
Uh,
imagine.
it will be bad for everybody. It's bad as it is. If you look at the destruction that's happened, Rich, if you take one shopping center, one mall, as if I may say that, the number of people that own businesses in a mall are affected. The
Yeah.
number of employees per business that's employed in the mall, the outsourced service providers like security, cleaning, everything, gardening, whatever it is, the plumber, the sprinkler system, the company that provides the toilet paper. So call one mall affects about 300 families.
Yeah.
And if it's completely destroyed, like what's happening here, I mean, about 5 kilometers down the way behind me, there's a mall that's burning right now called the Home Center. It's on fire. It is being destroyed to the ground. The mall that I was doing, the guys were so clever that they stole the piping from the sprinkler system, where at a point where the water cannot get into the mall to switch off the fires. So it's just utterly, it's destruction. I understand looting. I understand people saying I am hungry. I because there's going to come a point where civil society in South Africa will have to loot because we would be hungry also.
Yes.
My family has to eat also. You said Jaco's on there. He would understand what I'm saying, because he's seeing it firsthand as well. I couldn't get milk and bread today. I have to put on a bulletproof vest to go and get milk and bread, and I have to carry a 9mm and watch the crowds around me to go and get milk and bread and stand in a queue for 6 hours for one milk and one bread, and I'm a family of 4.
Now I know
So,
that
and that's 4 days.
Yeah, that's 4 days. God.
4 days into the riots.
Now, you have a AR in the seat next to you, I believe. Now, are you carrying that around when you're out trying to get stuff?
Yes. So my function within my community is I'm like an armed response backup type of individual. And there's 20 of us in my community here, and we drive around. So if a roadblock calls for assistance, where they see a crowd or something really suspicious in terms of vehicles approaching them with no number plates and suspicious people, they call it in on our community chat, and the response guys would now then go out from the road. Like, I'm based at this roadblock tonight, but if they call for a response, I would drive out and go and assist the other roadblocks. So because of the crowds we've been seeing, and for my own personal safety, this is not about I want to start a war or I want to walk around like a GI Joe, and I'm not happy wearing a bulletproof vest. If you understand, Rich, I'm not comfortable. I love firearms, you know that. I love to shoot. I love it as a sport. I love the action. To me, it transcends me into another dimension when I fire a weapon. It doesn't matter. But for the purpose that I'm using it now, I'm not comfortable with it.
No, I mean, you're a security professional, but you're an educated businessman as well. And I'm sure that the situation you find yourself in now is not one that you would ever have wanted to be in.
Definitely not. Definitely not. When you see crowds of people rushing towards you, calling you names, throwing things at you, I mean, Again, World War Z. I remember the movie so clearly. The guy was in where, Brooklyn or New York or something, and when the zombie apocalypse occurred, and I remember him turning around. He picked up his baby's teddy bear and he turned around, and I have a clear vision of what I saw with people picking up bricks, and they look at you and they have so much of a hatred for it's I can't explain it.
Has the Indian community always been a persecuted community in South Africa? I believe they have they not?
As an Indian, I would say yes, but that could be a biased statement.
Right.
But if you look at our history, we were brought here as slaves to man the sugarcane plantations here in KwaZulu-Natal by the English and that sort of thing. And thereafter, we were offered menial sort of land and things like that. And then came apartheid, and the land was taken away from us forcefully, and we were uprooted to different areas. And then we had the Group Areas Act during apartheid, which look, I don't like to talk about apartheid. That's the history.
Right.
But it's and we were put into our little. We had Group Areas Act, so Indians lived in Indian areas, and up till today, South Africans say, "Oh, you live in an Indian area, or you live in a white area, or or you live in a black area." It's not. It's nothing like that. There's no such thing exists anymore. But so Indians were persecuted from then. And we were not given any opportunities in the past. We're not given any opportunities now. Yet we are the biggest population outside of India in KwaZulu-Natal. We are a very successful population. A lot of Indians are businessmen, employed in governmental positions, employed in very high-ranking positions in corporate world, in businesses. Obviously an Indian being good at IT, which is a common joke around the world. Whether you're persecuted or not given an opportunity is not a way to say that I cannot do it. We'll do it. I think if you have, Rich, you have a wonderful background. You did it.
Well, I'll tell you, I think it's important for Americans to understand the context and the history of like why we're here. And Tony says he joined us late and he's wondering why are the riots. Can you touch on what's going on there again, Manhar?
So we have a lot of riots here in Durban, KwaZulu-Natal, that are sporadic and well planned. Well executed. They're hitting. If I had to use the compass as a thing, and Durban being a city, they started with the outlying areas of Durban, and they took out all the shopping malls. So all the shopping malls were being attacked, looted, and destroyed. And then they came into the more central, more highly populated areas. And they did the same thing. In the midst of that,
when you use the term "they," what you're speaking of are supporters of the ex-president Zuma, correct?
Rich, it started off as a free Zuma campaign. Right now, nobody knows what campaign it is.
Ah, okay.
We are, South Africans are used to what we call service delivery protests, and there's always a protest in South Africa. Whether they're not getting people are not getting water, or they're not getting electricity, or the current administration had promised them in 1994 free houses, and not everybody's received free houses. So you get those protests constantly. But this is, I wouldn't call this a protest. I would call this destruction. This is not a protest. This is not, let's block your path to get to work. This is, besides blocking your path to get to work, I'm destroying what you need to receive to live. So
Right.
the communities now cannot get basic needs, cannot get, like I said, milk and bread, groceries, pharmaceuticals. We cannot get it. If somebody is ill, uh, where do you get penicillin from right now? Because all the pharmacies are looted.
Which again speaks to what we've been talking about with the American Warrior Show and the American Warrior Society for 6 or 7 years running now, and that is, preparedness. I mean, the studio that I'm in right now, I'm looking at all of the shelves I have stocked full of preparedness items, and because if you're prepared, you don't, like you said, man, you got to go bag ready, and you've got a plan at which you may have to get your family out of there and get them to safety. Yako in South Africa says crippling logistics, transport, food, infrastructure. Hence, it's a modern siege. Is that what it feels like where you're at? A siege?
I agree with Jaco. It's definitely a modern siege. It's Rich, like I explained, you have these hordes of people coming in, but with these hordes, you have it's so well planned, meticulously organized. Like I said, they destroyed the sprinkler system or the water supply to the sprinkler system within the shopping mall. So a year ago, who would have thought that somebody would do that?
Right.
We all said, well, we got this fancy sprinkler system. The fire department requested it and we complied. And now if we have a fire, the mall will not burn down. But nobody said, what if they take away your water supply? And it burns for 4 days and that kind of thing. And talking about preparedness, Rich, I learned something great about preparedness today, and this is my personal experience. My passport is going to expire next year.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not just about being prepared, it's about maintaining that preparedness.
That's right. Yeah, and a lot of times, if people don't know this, if your passport expires within the next 6 months, a lot of times you can't even enter certain countries. So Yako says, very intelligent adversary. And I want to know, like, who is behind this? Is it people that want to see the current sitting president, Cyril Ramaphosa, deposed? Is it supporters of Zuma? What is going on? Who is organizing this stuff?
I can't answer that one, Rich, but I can speculate. And I can tell you that this is, it's not one particular person. It's an organization. It's definitely a group of people that sat around a boardroom table and said, right, we're going to use to cripple the economy. And the place to do is Durban, and we're gonna make it known. There is no public transport anymore. There's no private transport. We have a major taxi system, and generally when they stop or when there is protests, like last year when we had the lockdown, it was the taxi bosses that forced the government to open our economy because they were losing money. And all of a sudden, for 4 days, the taxis are non-existent. So it's not one man. I don't think any man to people say, we are going to do this tomorrow. We're going to go and destroy this mall and that mall. And no, they knew exactly which mall to take on first. They knew what to do. They knew that, after they finished with the malls, they were taking on the gas stations. They were looting gas stations. Like the video that I showed you. Where do I get fuel from?
Can you explain that video? I'm going to post it so people can watch it later. But can you explain what's going on in that video? We lost Manhar again. It is. It's an interesting video. I'll get it out there. But there's someone climbing up out of the hole in the ground where the gas is, and they're siphoning the gas right out of the ground at gas stations. Oh, there he is.
I apologize. I'm in my car, and I think I switched off the ignition by accident, so everything's shut off. But yeah.
Yeah. Yako says, "Don't worry, brother. I know where to cross the borders." I guess he's talking about not having a passport. And he says it's like sales operating with good intelligence.
Well, you know, Jaco would know this. We had a lot of calls now for armed security and specialized security, like close protection officers. We've had a lot of calls for people to be escorted to the airport and things like that. We don't have the manpower. You know, we are also, as private companies, stretched. We don't. It's gotten to a point where government structures are stretched and private structures are stretched.
Yeah, and your police force never really was that good to begin with, if I understand. No disrespect to South Africa, but you're
I take that. I'll take that with a pinch of salt, bitch.
Yeah, but I have heard that the professionalism in the South African police force in the last 10 years or so has not been what it is in most first world countries.
Rich, at one time, I think and Jaco will comment on this one. We had a group called the Takis. They were the special forces of the South African Police Service. They were rated number 3 in the world.
Oh yeah, your special task force is absolutely top shelf.
At one stage. Yeah. Now, I don't think they have fuel to get anywhere. So they just have to stay where they are. So, you know, because I haven't seen a single Taki on the road. And like I made the joke earlier, the camouflage must be really good because we don't see them at all.
Well, and again, we talk about this here in the United States. You know, here, people think that the police are here to protect you. That is not their job. Their job is to enforce the laws. That's it. And so self-protection is upon you and your family. And I think that's what we're seeing in South Africa with you, right?
Rich, what I've seen here is fantastic. I mean, there's a change of shift going on, and these are private people doing a change of shift.
Can you show us?
Can you see through my window?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Is it clear?
Yes, very clear.
Yeah. So this is like a tool talk. I think they're having. You know. And you can see the guy's got his torch on his head, and they're all dressed up warmly, and they're discussing what they're doing. And behind me, they've sort of like used vehicles to block the road now, because it's now about 6:15 in the evening. But at 9 o'clock is our mandatory curfew, which nobody even cared about in the past. But now that the civilian population's out, we like, no, the government said 9 o'clock you got to be at home. So if you're not from this area, you're going home. And in certain areas, it's really bad because the civilian population has been violent. I took a drive down to an area called Overport, which is a predominantly Indian area. Like I said earlier on, you live in an Indian area, but that's where the recent looting and destruction has happened. And when the community stood up and they caught some of these people looting and driving their cars filled up. I mean, yesterday we stopped a vehicle, and definitely it was stolen goods, and there were 5 people in this car, and we took out 12 cases of Coca-Cola, Troublone chocolates, sweets, a whole lot of stuff that they had obviously taken from one of the stores. A Red Bull, we had about 6 or 7 cases of Red Bull, cigarettes, a whole lot of alcohol that we had taken out. In another area, they would have burnt the person's car and made them walk home. And if you take a drive around and you look at those areas, these cars are just lined up on the road. They just parked off, burnt. So it hasn't even been recovered yet.
Well, how are you getting petrol for your vehicle? Is that going to be a problem?
Now, I have a very economical vehicle. It's a diesel car. It doesn't take a lot of fuel, and I'm sort of staying close to home all the time, because as much as I'm out there trying to help my community, my family first. So I will make sure that I can safeguard or get to my family in under a minute. So I stay very close to my home. In fact, my home is about a kilometer behind me, and
I've
trying
lost
to
your
call
audio.
me while I'm on this. But
Now I see I saw a lot of white South Africans a moment ago. Can you hear me?
Excuse me there, Rich. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we go. I
Yeah.
was saying, Manhar,
Am
I
I
see a
still on?
lot of, yeah, you're still on. I said, I see a lot of white South Africans there. Is that just the demographics in that one community? We've lost him again. If you're just joining us, we're talking with Manhar. Manhar is the founder and director of Dragon Protective Services in South Africa, and he has been on the front lines of dealing with the horrible riots here in South Africa. And I was just asking Manhar, when you panned around to show the shift change of civilian volunteers at the roadblock, it looked like a lot of white South Africans. Is that just the demographics in that community? We lost him again. You got to appreciate someone who's willing to come on, who's been going and running his own security company in the midst of some of the worst rioting in South Africa's history. And we hopefully will be able to get him back. Let's see. There we go.
hi, Rich. Sorry, I apologize to the viewers.
No worry.
Yeah. You were saying when I showed you the shift change, yeah.
Yeah, I was saying it looks like a lot of white South Africans. Is that just the demographics of that community, or is that
Rich, color is blind because they're not white.
Oh, they're not? Okay.
They're not white. No. Yeah, there's about let me count, about 6 or 7 if I would say black guys.
Mm-hmm.
There's about another 5 or 6 white guys, and there's about we call it another 10 Indian guys.
Oh, wonderful. And that's what
but it will grow now. It will grow because tonight it will be we expecting trouble, so it will definitely grow.
And Yako says the same thing. He says this transcends race. It's the willing and able, and I love that.
Yeah, it's not about race. I mean, our mayor today was talking about race, and it's been converted into a race issue because the community stood up. So a politician has to now stand back and say, I'm not in the wrong. So stop making it a race. Everything is a race issue here. It's not a race issue. It's we want to live in peace. I want to be able to, like I've done in New York, 2:00 in the morning. Rich, I'll give you an example. In 2017, my son was 5 years old. I took him to Orlando, Florida. We went to Disney World. It was my 40th birthday. I met a lot of friends, Tim Wagner, all the guys, whatever. And we spent some time in New York. My son was taught how to cross a street in New York purely because that was one country I would be safe to leave his hand. He didn't learn to do it in South Africa. Yeah. He learned to do it in a place. I'm not comparing New York to South Africa. I'm just talking about the freedom you have that we don't have here. My children don't go to the park unless I'm standing there watching them like a hawk.
Yeah, but it's fragile, right? I mean, it's fragile here. That freedom and security can be lost in a moment, as I think you guys are seeing. What safety you did have seems to be melting away at the moment. Yeah,
look, you guys have experienced something similar with the Black Lives Matter incidents last year, and I remember popping into one of your shows, and the guy was talking about what can be done and what you can do, and I'm faced with the same scenario today, or in this last 4 or 5 days. We've been faced with the same scenario. What do you do? I remember a documentary a couple of years ago, and whether it was a factual documentary or not, I think the electricity went out in parts of America for a couple of days or a couple of weeks. Was it a movie or was it a documentary? I'm not sure, but we so used to electricity either being on or off. We don't know when they're going to switch it off.
Yeah, I've been in a lot of third world countries, and people don't realize here in America that a lot of those places, they don't have power continuously all the time. You get used to the fact that it's going to go out. You're going to have a brownout. You're going to lose it for a while. And we'll get it back on.
Yes.
Yako says, if they keep the racial divide, they can keep looting, divide and conquer. He also says politicians are clever. Look at even the political situation in your country. And I've always said this, Manhar, that to me, South Africa is the canary in the coal mine. What's happening there is a preview maybe of what we got in store for us, or maybe what's happening here is in store for you guys. And I would say the same thing. We don't have a racial problem amongst one-on-one interactions between Americans. They're absolutely fantastic. Yeah. However, we got politicians that want everybody to believe that there's this great racial problem, or the media. I don't know who's driving that.
Rich, strangely enough, you say that you guys are behind. In 2015, I went to a public school in Jacksonville just to see what it was like. I grew up in a public school, in a public schooling system. My children don't go to a public school. They go to a private school. Thankfully, because I can afford it for now. But, I won't send them to a public school because it's not of a good standard. And in 2015, which is what we in 2021, 6 years ago, I had told my wife, if you had to immigrate to the United States of America, you got to remember one thing. They're 10 years behind us in terms of destruction.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And 10 years, we went to public schools. Jaco would tell you, we all went to public schools. I grew up in the public schooling system. My dad paid 2 rands a year, and I got all my textbooks. And that was in the height of apartheid. I got all my textbooks. I had everything supplied to me. Today, in a private school, you pay school fees. You still got to buy a uniform and buy everything the child needs, and that kind of thing, So it's the difference between South Africa now and what I saw in 2015 in the public schooling system. I mean, you all have a public transport, or I'd say transport for the kids to go to school within the district. We never had that then. We don't have it now. Every household in South Africa has 2 cars. The husband has a car and the wife has the car. But you don't need that in the States. You don't need that. Well, okay, certain parts of the US you don't need that kind of thing. So yeah, you guys are 10 years behind in terms of destruction. Just watch your politicians. Don't let them take your guns away.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I think that what you guys are seeing there is, and one of the things that Jonathan Deal is going to come back on and speak about in the near future is there's something that they're trying to do with regard to your right to keep and bear arms. It's pretty fragile over there, I think, at the moment.
It is very fragile. We have an organization called Gun Free South Africa, who claim that firearms are one of the biggest killing machines in South Africa. They're wrong. We call it an Okapi knife. I don't know if you know what that is, but the Okapi knife is a famous knife used in South Africa, and knives kill. You have more of a chance dying from a stab wound or from a slice than you would from a gunshot wound. Number one. And if somebody wanted to kill you, they could use a pencil. They don't need a firearm. So gun-free South Africa is wrong. They use, if I may say, they massage the facts to try and suit their way forward. And Jonathan D would tell you that. And when you look at the facts of firearms, yes, South Africans have and I believe this, we have a different mental state. We are a violent nation. We were brought up that way. But that does, you don't see us taking guns. I mean, here I have, again, I'm going to show you this roadblock. It's grown and they're having a little chat now about what they're doing tonight. And there's a guy with a bulletproof vest, one of the patrollers. You probably see an AR walking around somewhere as well.
Mhm.
But when the mob came to us, we didn't shoot like it was Smarties. We didn't throw rocks like it was, so again, firearm control is created by politicians.
Yes. And what's interesting is, let's put this into context. The man that's telling me that guns aren't a problem is wearing a bulletproof vest. If that doesn't speak volumes, what does, right?
Yeah. Wearing a bulletproof vest with an AR on his seat and a 9mm on his hip and trying to protect his community at a roadblock.
Exactly. And
guns
Jocko
are not
says,
the problem. Yeah.
No, say that again. I want you to say that. That's great.
Okay. So guns are not the problem. Politicians and politics are the problem. And you guys proved it hundreds of years ago when I would call it the Great American War. I don't know the actual term to it, and I don't know your history that well. But when somebody said, "We're taking your guns away, give it to us," I mean, look at the Indians that in the history that you had. The Indians didn't have weapons; they had tools to hunt. They had tools to make their lives better, and it took an individual that came with better tools to take over their world. And then you had somebody else come in and say, well, you can't have those tools because it's dangerous. And you guys stood up and said, we're not gonna give you our tools. And there was a great war. I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but there was a great war, and somebody won, and now it's in your constitution that you have the right to bear arms.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I told this story recently, but it bears repeating because it's exactly what you're talking about. Our Revolutionary War. At the time, there were just a few Scots-Irish folks that was on the west side of the Appalachian Mountains, and one of the British leaders said, "I'm coming over there. You better lay down your arms because I'm going to bring the fire and sword if you don't." So my ancestors and my wife's family marched across the Appalachian Mountains and fought the battle at Kings Mountain and killed the British officer and drove their troops back to the sea. And so that's enshrined in our culture that, I went to church at a church that had a cannonball still sticking in the wall of the church, fired by the Union artillery.
Wow.
And, when I was in Beaufort, South Carolina, I put pictures on my social media just yesterday showing the beautiful ruins of Sheldon Church. It was burned by the British during the Revolutionary War and then burned again by the Union Army. So again, this church was burned by our own government that was trying to put its subjects back in line. And so to your point, Manhar, I say all that because your point is well made, that the politicians often are the problem. It's not the people. The people will do exactly what you just showed me a moment ago, and that is band together to protect their communities. And we need more people like that.
Well, look at what the politicians want. They want control.
Yes.
They want to be able to tell you what you need. They want to, and they don't want you to stand up and say, that's not what I need. And one way of doing that is to take away the tools that you need to protect yourself. Or let it make.
Can you hear me, Rich?
Yes, there you go.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, make no mistake, we are as time has gone by. Oh God, what is going on here? I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. You're coming in loud and clear.
Are you hearing music?
No.
There we go. Let's cut that out. Yeah. I'm so sorry. My car's
No.
doing like wonderful things here. Where was I? So the politicians want to control you, and if you stand up, they need to take away the tools that you have. It's a tactic. It's like any military in the world. If you have a strong air force, the best thing to do is to take out the airports that your air force are going to use against you.
That's exactly right. And Yako says, after these riots, I think and hope people will wake up and see that armed civilians are doing the protecting. Yeah. And he also says the problem is that people don't learn from history. And of course, the references to Hitler, Stalin, etc. And I think we always have to put these things into historical context. What's the purpose of the Second Amendment? Is it for hunting? Nope. Is it for self-protection? Maybe. But it's a check against the tyrannical government. And, one of the other things that I worry about in your country is this idea of land redistribution and appropriating stuff for common good. It sounds very socialist. I think, again, I worry about what's going on there because, like you said, you guys we're 10 years behind in destruction.
I'm so sorry, Rich.
Maybe losing him again.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what is. Stop this, please.
There you go. Can you hear me?
There we go. Hi. Yeah.
Well, I've kept,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, you were saying?
No. I've had you on here for an hour and 30 minutes, and I know that they probably need you at the roadblock. So I don't want to take up any more of your time than absolutely necessary. But thank you so much for being on with us. Some final closing thoughts and what folks can do if they want to help or.
Rich, ask your government to, I'm not asking them to intervene, but make it known around the world with first world countries. South African politicians go out and ask for aid. They're so corrupt. They're eating up the aid and the people on the ground are not seeing it. So what happens is a guy would tell you, I'm hungry, but somebody on the top has eaten a whole lot of money. So the guy on the ground is always going to be hungry. So I think America and Europe need, I don't mean intervene with support, but need to put pressure diplomatically and say, look, this story has to stop of racism. It has to stop. The corruption has to end and allow your people to live in peace. Let us live in peace. Let us live in harmony together. So in 2010, when we had the World Cup, you had, then there was no race. There was no black and white and Indian. It was, we were South Africans and it's the World Cup and the ex-president Zuma was our president. Corruption exists all over the world. But here in South Africa, at least give back to the absolute poor. Give them the services that they require.
Yeah, and the value of the rand, is never been very strong against the dollar, and I can only imagine, with the upheaval in your country right now, I don't see it looking well for your economy in the near future. Do you?
I don't see the rand surviving this because the worst is still to come. It's okay to be. I mean, we locked down for 3 months during COVID last year. Our vaccination program is delayed now. We've only got, I think, about 2 million people vaccinated. We're in a population of a huge populations of tens of millions. I don't know the actual figure, but you've only vaccinated 2 million people. It's not going to go. COVID's not going to go away for us. And then now you have this racial issue and you have politics playing a role. It's just not the right time. And economically, we are not going to survive. They've destroyed such infrastructure. In the last 10 years, our rail network was destroyed. So the road network was an important network for the trucks and things like that, for us to go through that. and now you're destroying that as well. Our food distribution you've destroyed through KZN. So there's a long period now for us to recover from this, and the rand's not going to make it economically.
Yeah, and I worry about the same thing in our country. Manhar, we're printing money like it's like you can do that, which you can't with fiat currency. There's a limit to it. And I'm the proud owner of a couple of South African Krugerrands. That,
Wow.
Just I don't know. I'm mystified by what's going on. And I think one of the things that we saw is just how quickly it went from nothing. What was it, last Friday? This all started. And now here we are on Wednesday with no real sign of slowing down. I think if anything, it's just spreading probably.
Yeah. And I think it's going to spread even more. Even if it stops, like I said, everything is the collapse is so much. The infrastructure has gone so far down. It's going to take a while to recover. Really, really long time. It's not a week or a month. It's going to take years. And I'm glad you have some Krugerrands because at one stage Krugerrands, they were giving it away. And today the Krugerrand value, it's humongous. It's I think a 1 ounce or something is like that in terms of rand value is about 30,000 rand, which is about what, $2,000?
Yeah, American. Yeah.
Yeah.
That around, I think you can probably pick them up for $1,900 to $2,000.
Yes.
Yeah. Shan says we are at the start of inflation in the U.S. due to the money printing. Money isn't printed anymore; it's just electronically created. Yeah. Through something called quantitative easing, and we just create this stuff. But again, I worry about South Africa collapsing. I don't. Maybe that's too strong of a language, but depends what the definition of collapse probably is. But what do you see the country? Where do you see South Africa a year from now, Manhar?
I don't know, Rich. Understand at the point where I'm at. I'm standing at a roadblock, manning my own area. South Africa is a hardy country. We're a hardy population. We can come together when the need arises, and it can work. But I think because of the corruption and what's been going on, personally, and this is my personal belief, it's over for South Africa. We're the next Zimbabwe. We're the next Mozambique. We're going to follow in the history books of Africa. It's over.
I hope you're wrong, because for a long time South Africa was a beacon for sub-Saharan Africa, and I had nothing but the highest hopes for your country, and I still do, because I think there's so many wonderful people there, and I know you know this, and I worry about our members that are over there, American Warrior Society members that are there. Yako says you can fly us over. We'll run security and assist with training. Yeah, hey man, if it does
Jaco,
collapse,
the typical South African taking an opportunity. Look at that.
I love it. Yeah, and so my heart and prayers go out to you, as does I know most people that are going to be listening and watching today's show in the coming weeks and months to come. But any final comments, sir?
No, Rich, just thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm sorry I couldn't plan much or whatever. We're talking off the cuff here because of today. Again, to my fellow warriors and our society, thank you so much for all that you do. Our friend Mike, I follow your program. Rich, obviously, I always come on and say good morning or good afternoon on your shows. Pray for us. Keep us in your thoughts and your prayers. If you can put pressure on your government to put pressure on our government, please do that. Please, I know you guys are networked. You guys can do something. I'm not asking you for a care package of ammunition and medical care package or anything like that. I'm asking you let the world know that it's been bad. This is not humane. This is not the way modern society should live. So
Yeah.
thank you again, Rich.
Well, thank you, Manhar. I would love to get you back on here in the next few days because I think I know our society and our members and viewers would love an update. If you're willing to do that, Manhar, let's plan that soon. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
All
I would
right.
definitely keep everybody updated on Facebook, Rich.
Please do. And
Yeah.
let's see, we got some comments. Shan says, be safe over there, Manhar and Yako. We'll be praying for you. Ray says, keep strong, guys. Yako says, y'all could use a couple of A10s. We'll see what we can do for that. Steve says, Rich, the common people in America have no idea what is really going on. Your videos are right on point, and those few of us who are awake and prepared as much as possible, but are not well organized, and would enjoy hearing an overview of your community plan or reference to a book regarding organization communication. So yeah, I think we'll talk some more details when you come back on. Alan says, hang in there, Manhar. Put up a good fight. Stay safe. Cover your six. We are praying for you and your country.
Thank you to all the members, Rich. Thank you very much.
All right. God bless you, sir. We'll talk to you soon.
You guys stay safe.
You too. Remember,
Bye.
folks, the fight is coming. Be ready.